I have all the materials I need for drafting, and on my pattern paper here, the first thing I'll be doing is rule out a starting line. And all the measurement I'll be marking down on my pattern is going to be from this starting line. So I'm just going to rule it out. It's like a guideline for me. I really advise that if you're a beginner and you've never created a sleeve pattern before, please go ahead and follow the steps I'm following, exactly how I'm doing it, and pay attention to everything I'm doing, okay, to get the same results. So once I have that, the step one for me is to mark out the cap's height of my sleeves. And to do this, in case you're wondering what is a cap's height, the cap's height of a sleeve is from the shoulder tip to the underarm line. I have two pictures here showing you what a cap's height is, and this is what we're going to be marking down on the pattern paper next, okay? So please go ahead and look at it, and let's start getting the measurement for it. Now, to get the cap's height, I'm just going to divide my round bust by 12, and I'll add 0.5 inch to the measurement, okay? My round bust is 36, divided by 12 gives you 3 inches, plus 0.5 inch, 3 inches plus 0.5 inch gives you 3.5 inches. This is the measurement I'll be marking down on my pattern paper as my cap's height, and I'll be marking this down from the starting line, okay? So see me place my tape, go down from the starting line, and I'm marking 3.5 inches. Now make sure that whatever you're marking from your starting line, whatever you're going down by, should be your own cap's height, okay? You saw the way I got mine. Please go ahead and do the same thing for yours. Use your measurements, okay, and get your own cap's height, okay? So the step 1B is going to be for me to divide my round armhole by 2. My round armhole is 16, divided by 2 gives you 8 inches. Now I'm going to be adding 1 inch to that measurement. 8 plus 1 equals to 9. So what I'll be marking on my pattern paper is 9 inches, okay? And where will I mark this 9 inches? I'm marking it on that line I just created, this line here. This is where my cap's height is, and I'm going to be marking my round armhole divided by 2 plus 1 inch on this line. So that is 9 inches. And please go ahead and do the same thing I did. I divided my round armhole by 2 and I plus 1 inch to the measurement, and I'm marking this down, okay? So once I have that point, I'll connect this with my ruler to this point here. And you can see that it is not a straight line, it is in slants, and this is what we need, okay, to create the curve that we need on our armhole. So step 1C is for me to mark the middle point of this line I just created, okay? I'm going to be creating the middle point, and to do this, I'll place my tape from here to here, okay, from here to here. I'll place my tape, fold the tape into 2 to get the middle point, and then I'll indicate the middle point of that line. So once I have the middle point, I'll use my curve ruler to connect here to here, okay, from that point to the middle point. And see the way I place my curve ruler, okay? Pay attention to what I'm doing. See how I'm going to place my curve to get the curve from here to here. And see how I'm going to turn my curve ruler the other way to connect this point like this, see? And now I have the curve I want for my armhole, exactly how I want it to look. So go ahead and follow the same step, okay? Now on the length of my sleeves, I'll be marking the same 9 inches I marked on my cap's height. And I marked 9 inches there. You guys remember how we got 9 inches? And that's what I just marked on the length. And what I'll do is connect from this point down to the length. Now, while I was connecting, I was supposed to use my longer ruler to get a straight line, but I used the short ruler and it was not straight. It was looking weird, but now I'm adjusting, and here we go. So this is what I want. This is the pattern I need for slashing and spreading, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut. Now, if you're creating a pop-up sleeves, on the length, you're going to mark your round wrists divided by 2. That's what you mark on the length. But what I am doing right here is I'm just creating a very simple sleeve pattern, because I just need this sleeve pattern for me to be able to slash and spread to get the actual sleeves I need for my top. So that's why I just created this very, very simple sleeve pattern. But anyways, The next thing I will be showing you guys is this is a duplicate of what we just drafted, but this duplicate is what I'll be using to slash and spread. Okay, and on this pattern here, it is a full pattern where I have a folded edge, and if I open it up, this is how it looks. Okay, see, this is a complete sleeve pattern. And what I will do is, for the purpose of slashing, I'm just going to rule out a middle line. And you can see that the middle line is already obvious on the pattern because it was folded into two, it was on fold. So the middle line is already obvious. I'm just following the line and I'm ruling with the marker to make it visible for you guys to see. And now I'm going to mark 2 inches apart, and that is step 2. For slashing and spreading, I need to mark 2 inches apart on the pattern so I can slash and spread this to get the actual width I want for my sleeves. So I'm starting off from this side. I'm marking 2 inches on the top, on the middle, and I'll connect with a straight line. And this is me trying to slash this pattern. Okay, I'm just creating the lines that I'll be using to slash my pattern. So you can use 2 inches, you can use 1.5, you can use 2.5, it's up to you. Okay, so where you actually get the width is from the spreading. When you start spreading, that is where you spread to the amount that you want, to the width that you want. Okay, the spreading is where the magic happens. But right now, this line I'm ruling is for the slashing purpose. Okay, so once I mark my 2 inches apart, I'm going to label the pattern from 1 to any number it stops. So this is going to be number 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll continue marking my 2 inches apart so I can get my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to whatever number it gets to. Okay, so this is 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 pieces of pattern that I need to slash and piece back to get the width. So I'm just going to start cutting them out, following the line I have created. Okay, each line I'll cut it out. So this is 1 and this is 2. I'm just going to piece this out. So it's like a puzzle. Okay, we'll take out the pieces and then we'll piece them back just the way we want it. So step 3 is spreading. And how do we spread? Now to spread, you need to get a fresh pattern, very big fresh pattern. And I have mine here. I'm using my brown paper and I already ruled out the length because the length is going to help me spread my pattern. See all of them in pieces. Okay, I'm going to start piecing them back together. And the first that I'll be placing on my fresh pattern is number 1. Of course, it has to be number 1. So I'm using my paper tape. You can use a paper tape, you can use a sellotape, you can use a gum, pin, whatever you can use to hold down your pattern on your fresh pattern. Just use that, okay, to spread. So once I have number 1, the next thing I'll do is mark 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches after number 1. And that is where my number 2 will be sitting. So the space between number 1 to number 2 is 2 inches. The space between number 2 to number 3 is going to be 2 inches. The space between number 3 to 4 is going to be 2 inches. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm spreading my pattern by 2 inches. Okay, what I'm doing is spread my pattern by 2 inches. Okay, that is exactly what I'm doing. So go ahead and spread your pattern just the way you want it to be. If you want it to be fuller than my sleeves, you can go ahead and use 3 inches apart. If you want it smaller, you can use 1.5, or 2 inches is what I use apart on my pattern while I was spreading them. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing this till I spread and get to number 8. Right now I am on number 3. I'm going to do that for number 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and I'll show you guys the results. So this is it. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and I went ahead to trace the top because I already have the length. I went ahead to trace the top of the pattern using my red marker, and the next thing I will do is I'll go ahead and cut this out. So what just happened is, after spreading, I traced the top part of it, because we use the length to spread, so the length already has the mark on it. It is necessary for us to use the length. And now once you have the length, you can spread, and now go ahead and trace. Once you're done spreading, trace the top of it and follow that line while you're cutting, the line that you trace, follow it, and that is it. Okay, that is spreading. Is actually the very simplest thing to do while drafting out your pattern. Slashing and spreading, right, is very, very simple. You just need to understand the technique. So this is my pattern paper. I'm going to take out the piece that I use in spreading, because what I actually needed for this top or for my sleeve is the spread pattern and not the pieces. Okay, so I'm taking out the pieces, and I have my pattern here. This is the pattern I'll be using for my sleeves. So this is how it will be looking when I cut it on the fabric, and we're going to go into step 4. Step 4 is for us to cut this on the fabric. If you've not seen the main top version where I created the full top outfit, go check it out. But yeah, what I use is Ankara, and you can see that I added to the length of my sleeves. Okay, the total length I have on the fabric is 30 inches. When I was done creating the sleeves, I realized that I was supposed to make the sleeve longer than what I made it to be. So 30 wasn't enough, and I wish I made it 33 or 34 or 35. So I will actually advise you to make yours longer than mine. 35, 33, 34. Okay, make sure it is longer. This is the fabric I'm using for the sleeves. Okay, and it is folded into 2. Remember, it is necessary for you to fold your fabric into 2 before placing your pattern. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the top I already created, and I'm going to measure my off shoulder armhole there, and you can see my tape from the off shoulder armhole. I'm just going to measure, and I got 3 inches. So 3 inches is what I'm working with on the top. So I'm going to mark that on my fabric here, on the sleeve fabric. I'm going to mark 4 inches instead. 3 plus 1. 1 inch is for the sewing allowance. So I'm going to mark 4 inches. Okay. So I'm marking this 4 inches from the open edge of the sleeves. I'm going in from the open edge, and I'm going in by 4 inches. And once I have that point, I'm going to use my scissors to make a notch on this point here. I'll be showing you guys why, but make sure you make this notch. Okay, I'll bring in my bias tape and show you why we made a notch. Now from that point where we have that notch, we're going to be sewing a bias tape. Okay, we're going to be sewing a bias tape, and that is going to be for the channel we pass the elastic through. So on the length, I'm going to go up by 4.5 inch. Now this is on the length of my sleeves. I'm going up by 4.5 inch. So what we're marking now are the points we're going to be creating a channel for elastic. Okay, to get that ruche, we need to create this point, and that's what I'm marking, 4.5 inch upwards from the length. Now I'll go to the top of my sleeves. From the top, I'll come down by 16 inches. And this is another point where we're going to be creating another channel for elastic. Okay, so we're going to be creating 5 channels for elastic. Here is 1 point I have created now. This one I'm creating right now is 1 point. There are going to be 2 points on this particular point here. After this line, there's going to be another point, but then the 5 points is going to be from the top to the middle and to the length. Okay, I'll show you guys exactly what we're doing. Like I'm just going to carry you guys along while I'm sewing this, so you guys see what I mean. So I'm just repeating the same thing I did on the other side, so that when I take this to my sewing machine to sew, I have like a clean aligning line. The lines are the same, so I'm just marking the 4.5 and the 16 inches. So I'll open this up and take this to my sewing machine and sew. Okay, so this is the line. It's a straight line now, and the bias will be sitting on this line to create a channel. So 2 line here, 2 line here, and on the top here 1 line. From this notch we'll sew 1 line to the other side of the notch. So let's go ahead and start sewing. Okay, so here I'll be sewing from the top of my sleeves, and I'm going to start from the first notch. Remember, we've made a notch on the sleeves after the 4 inches. I'll place my bias like this, and I'll sew by 1/4 inch. Where I am sewing this from is from the right side of my fabric. Now I place my bias on the right side of my Ankara, the good side, and I'm just going to sew by 1/4 inch. Very little. Okay, see the little I'm sewing this in, because I'm going to be flipping it to the wrong side, so I can create a channel where my 1/2 inch elastic will be passing through. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, sewing in by 1/4 inch. And when I sew and I get to the notch where I have on this side, I'll stop and I'll flip this. So if you're a beginner, please just follow what I'm doing exactly the way I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm stopping here. That's where the notch stops. I'll cut the excess out from the bias. Now I'll flip this to the wrong side of my fabric, to the bad side of my Ankara. Okay, see, flip, see the right side, and now this is the wrong side. And now I'll go ahead and sew this, making sure I leave enough space for my elastic to pass through this bias. Okay, now if you follow this step I just followed, when you're passing your elastic through this channel, it should be able to pass through the middle of this bias, and it's going to make it ruche, and it's just going to make it, you know, hang on your shoulder. So when I'm sewing on the bias, I make sure that I sew a little bit in, just a little bit by 0.1 inch, not even 2.5, so 0.1 inch, and see what the result looks like. So see what the result looks like, and this channel is going to be enough for the elastic I'm using, 1/2 inch elastic, to pass through. So once I was done with that step, the next thing I'm going to be doing is hem the base of the sleeves. And to do this, I'm just going to be folding my fabric twice by 1/4 inch, and I'll sew. Now the base is where the length is sitting, and I'm just folding this in by 1/4 inch twice to hem. Okay, this part is actually very simple. Okay, you're just hemming the base of your sleeves. When you have raw edges on your fabric and you're sewing this, you need to hem it, and that's what we're doing. We're hemming the raw edge of the sleeves, and this is happening on the length. And this is the result I have after hemming. So once you're done with that, the next thing is for us to create the channels for the elastic. Now we have created 1 channel, we are left with 4, and the first one we're going to start with is where we have the point where we have close to the length. I'm going to be sewing my bias there to create a channel. So most people just indicate the point and they sew the elastic on that point directly, but because I want mine to look like a ready-made sleeve, like I just want it to have this clean look inside, that's on the wrong side, that is why I'm using my bias. Okay, so I'm sewing a bias, and I'm just going to sew the bias in a way that when I am passing my elastic through, I have a channel in the middle where the elastic will pass, and it's just going to create a ruche there. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. So I sewed 1 stitch on the bias, and I'll sew a 2nd stitch. Okay, so it will create that channel. If you don't understand, I will advise you to actually either zoom into what I'm doing or slow it down. But what I'm just doing is I'm just sewing 2 stitches on my bias, and those 2 stitches on each side of the bias, very close to the end of the bias. It's just going to create a channel for whatever I want to pass through, okay, as far as it's as small as the hole I have created. So I have the first channel here. I'll sew a second channel. Yeah, this is the second channel. I'm using a bias also. So from the first point to the second point for my channel, I just left like half an inch in between, and I'm sewing the second bias. Okay, so just a little bit space, and I'm sewing my second channel. So I'm going to do that here too. Also 2 points, 2 channels. So this is how it looks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 channels on my sleeves, and I have the elastic for all the channels. Now passing the elastic through, I'm just going to show you the length of each of the elastic, okay, and where I am placing each of the elastic. So I have 5 elastic here because I have 5 channels. And let's start with this one. Okay, so the channel or the point close to the length, I have the elastic 8 inches long, and I have 2 channels there, so I have 2 elastic which is 8 inches long, and I'll pass this through these channels. Okay, for this one, these 2 channels I have here at the middle point, which is like the elbow point, I have 2 elastic also because I have 2 channels there, and each of the elastic there is 10 inches long, 10 inches. Okay, and then for the top of my sleeves, and this is going to be sitting on my shoulder, I have 9 inches long elastic, and I have just 1 channel there, so I have just 1 elastic. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass all the elastic through the channels they are supposed to sit in. I'll start from the base, and I'll make sure that after passing this, I use my pins to hold this down so I can join my sleeves together and show you guys what it looks like. But then we're going to do the rest together. So after passing the elastic through all the channels, this is what I have, and you can see that 2 channels here. If you didn't understand what we're doing, since now you understand, we have another channel here, 2 channels. Okay, and then we have the last one on top of the sleeve, 1 channel, and you can see the 4 inches we left before creating the channels. And the next we're going to do is close off the sleeves. So to close off the sleeves, remember that I already measured my off shoulder armhole on the top, and I'll measure that out again from the point where I have the elastic sitting. From that notch, I'll go in like this. I'll mark out my 3 inches, and I'll sew in the rest. Okay, the rest is going to be stitching allowance. So I have my 3 inches. I'm just going to sew in the rest allowance, or the rest excess I have there, to the length. And all the sewing is going to be done on the wrong side of the fabric, so make sure you measure what you have on your top or whatever you're creating a dress. Make sure you measure first, and from the point where you have the notch where you started creating your channel for elastic, place your tape. From that point, go in or go out, and then once you have your measurements, the rest that is remaining on the fabric is for your stitching allowance. Go ahead and sew that in. So I am done with the process. This is what I have. I'll flip this to the right side. Let's flip it together. So once I was done flipping, this is what I have. You can see that the sleeve is already done. All we have to do now is attach this to the point where it's supposed to sit, which is the off shoulder armhole. You can see where it's going to sit on the off shoulder. And the last step, but not the least, is for us to attach the sleeve to the armhole. That's the off shoulder armhole. And to do this, all you have to do is bring in your top or your dress, whatever it is you are going to be placing your sleeve in or attaching it to. Make sure you have the points, that's the armhole middle point on your sleeve, sitting on the same point on your armhole of the top. Okay, that's where you have the sewing joining your back to your front piece. Make sure you have that line, the sewing line, on the same part where you have the sewing line of your sleeve, where you finish joining your sleeve together. So make sure those 2 sewing lines sit together, and now start attaching your sleeve from there. And you guys, that was the way I created my puff sleeves. Okay, it was very, very simple for me to create this because I realized that one thing about sewing is understanding every step you take and understanding why you're taking the steps. So I was able to understand every step I was taking and why I was taking them, and it was very, very easy for me to create this, attach this, and I love the results. Now I learned two things from creating the sleeves. I learned that more times I need to be making my length longer than I desire, because it is better for something to be too long and let me just go ahead and adjust it to what I want, than for it to be too short that I cannot adjust it. Okay, so make sure that you learn from my mistake, and please let me know in the comment section what you think about this video. And don't forget to give this a thumbs up, like this video, and if you've not seen the full video where I drafted out the top version and where I sewed the top, please go watch it because it is a full outfit. Okay, it's a top with the sleeves. Okay, go watch it, create your make made top and attach your sleeves to it. And yeah, let me know what you think, if it was very simple and easy for you to understand. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I love you guys so much. Love and life to you, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.